Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hello.
Sorry, are we starting?
Hey.
Bruno?
We started.
Okay, sorry.
Cool. So, welcome to
So, ask us anything on.
Becoming
Sorry,
a
I think
senior
there's
support
some
engineer.
lagging.
Yes, there's some lagging. Yes, we wanted to do this cool thing, but there's some lagging.
Let's try again.
Okay.
You can cut it out later.
Yes.
You can edit it later, so it lines up.
The times I've heard like, oh, we can edit this out later, and then literally that text is in the video. It's
Yeah.
just insane.
No.
Wow. Well, it's fine. It's okay. I think I'm just gonna go on. I'm Bruno. I'm from Angola. And Daphne.
I am Daphne from Singapore in the APAC team, and we are your co-hosts for today.
Cool.
Oh.
Thank you for doing this.
Yes. We have here a lot of support engineers. We have Vlad, Alex, Ron, Katrin, and Ben. Yes, Ben also joined. Wow. Hi. And please be ready to be bombarded with a lot of questions. Okay. Daphne, would you like to ask the first question?
Sure. So to start off, why don't the senior support engineers here share with us when did you start your journey?
To becoming a senior, I assume.
Yep.
Oh.
I can start actually. I was hired as a senior, so that's easy.
I think mine would be the most complicated one because Tom started, I would say 2 or 3 months after I joined to talk about it. And I was in the middle of building a house. So the first thing I said to him was like, nope, we'll wait until I'm done with that before, taking on another task. My house took longer than expected, like a year longer. So instead of starting pretty early, I was here a year and a half, almost 2 years before I even started. I'm more curious about Ben and Katrin.
I'm just writing mine, so Katrin, you can go. and copy it, paste, and then read it out then.
Okay. I think in my case, it was, to me at least, surprisingly early because I was asked to start the promotion document about maybe 3/4 of a year after I joined or so. And the feedback from my manager and from colleagues was that I should get going into that direction. So also relatively easy.
So I suppose the crass answer is I started my journey on the day I started at GitLab, but which isn't entirely crass because fundamentally I started the process because Ilya asked me to. He went and created the doc and said, it's time to fill this out and to get promoted to senior. So the reason why I did it was that my manager said, you meet the criteria, gather the evidence, words to the effect, maybe even, just get on with it. It's in the bag kind of thing. But ultimately my reason for doing it was, well, if I meet the criteria, then why wouldn't I want the title and the pay rise? And that's ultimately the reason for doing it. Sure as hell wasn't to get more work to do. I mean, it's also worth mentioning. So my job title in my previous role was infrastructure principal. So, and I got there having started as a sysadmin. There was an infrastructure principal for Unix, one for virtualization, one for networks, one for database, and one for Windows. And I was the Unix one. And basically, the kind of buck stopped with me from a technical perspective. I was the technical leadership in my space. And broadly speaking, that meant that anything the team didn't feel they had the authority to do landed on my desk, and anything management wanted to do that I couldn't delegate stayed on my desk. So it was, yeah. I was already in a senior role before I started here. So some of my behavior looks senior, I guess. I tend to look beyond just the ticket that's in front of me. So, you know, if we've got a customer with customer experience a bug that clearly other customers are going to experience or are experiencing, then I'm going to want to try and head that problem off. Things like the Let's Encrypt route expiring, I created that issue months ahead of time because I knew it was going to be a problem. And obviously on the day we find out just how much of a problem it was, but I was kind of prepared for it.
I think there's sort of two approaches of how you get on this process. It's either you tell your manager, hey, I want to become senior, what do I have to do? Or the senior already essentially sees the potential. With Ben, with Katrin, with Vlad when he joined, with myself, we never looked at this is the ticket that we had the answer. We looked at this is the ticket, what's the problem there? Is this, you know, something that we can improve upon? If I looked at the team, I didn't just see my teammates, I saw the entire process. Is there something I can improve upon? That's what essentially told our managers by our actions, like they are ready to be senior. We never asked for to become senior. It was like, this is the document, fill it out, go for it.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you for answering that question. I think that it is important so that others that want to follow the same path, they have different perspectives on how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the second question. Well, I quickly switched the second question, but yeah. But what does a usual day in the life of a senior support engineer look like? Let's see, Katrin, do you want to start?
I would say it's not a lot of difference to before. I think I feel like I have a little bit more of a sorry, I can't find the English word for this. Responsibility maybe to leave, for example, private notes and tickets, like for example in the support pods pilot that we have, to get an overview of tickets, to maybe rather read a few more than to focus on too few too deeply, and with internal notes maybe help my colleagues to proceed. So that's something I felt a little bit more responsibility to do after becoming a senior, and I guess that changes the day a little bit, but not significantly, I have to say.
I think you'll get the same response from essentially every senior, and the reason is what we are doing is already senior quality or senior level, depending on how you want to call it. So when we join, we don't look at this is the ticket, we look at this is the overall. So when one of my managers said at some point, like, I was still working on senior, and he said, be careful what you say, because everyone sees you as a senior, even on paper you're not. For the people there, it doesn't matter, you're a senior. And I think that's the general approach on how our day looks like. We all have sort of always been senior, or always been on that level for so long that when you finally get your promo doc done and it gets processed and you get the promotion, you've been doing that for 6 months.
Ideally less than that, but yeah.
Well, it's your behavior has changed.
Yeah, it's a gradual process. It's a gradual process. It's not like you are, appointed a senior and now you do all this other stuff that you didn't before. It's kind of you work your way up, and then it's just a formality that you're a senior at that point. Yeah. Just document it.
In other companies, I had a talk with Tom Atkins at the beginning. In other companies, after 2 years working for the company, you go to, hey, you've been working here for 2 years, you're now a senior. That's literally a change in your routine, because you're a support engineer, you do tickets, you enjoy it, and then they say after 2 years, now you're a senior, now you have to help people. Yeah. That's not the case here. It's you can decide essentially 2 paths again, which way you want to become a senior. Do you want to do it on the technical level, like many people do because it's the easiest one, or do you want to do it on workflow? People related stuff, where it's too bad Norden's not here, but Norden and myself both did that path. It's a lot more difficult to become senior that way. And the reason for it is it's not really hard coded. So it's very difficult to see, oh, this one is really skilled at, Linux stuff or runners. Where if you're focused on people, it's about workflows that you improve, people's lives. Katrin, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. So I agree it is, or it maybe appears a bit more difficult, but at the same time, I think it's a more healthy process, because this other extreme example that Ron just mentioned, that can also lead into, falling into kind of hole, because now suddenly you have to be a teacher, which maybe you never wanted to be or don't have the skills to be. And when this new responsibility comes suddenly after this kind of formality, I think that's a big problem that we also see in the many other organizations. That people suddenly have to take on responsibilities that they didn't work towards or didn't want or can't do really. So in our case, it seems a bit stranger that becoming a senior is only a small formality in the end. But I would put my hand into the fire that it's safer for the organization and healthier for the individual, I would say.
I had it on in my previous work. One of the seniors just refused to help people.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose to add to that, there's issues sculling around attempting to define what a senior is and what they're supposed to do that's different. And I'm nervous about that, because from my perspective, the process was you become a senior and then you fill out the doc and then you get the title, not the other way around. So the idea that retrospectively a whole load of responsibilities will get dropped on our desk, I find uncomfortable, particularly the point about whether or not you actually have the aptitude to do those things. So we'll see where that goes, but I don't think it's a serious risk yet.
I will say that the fact that Ronald said before, becoming a senior engineer is different for kind of all of us. So that makes it difficult to define for somebody who's trying to get there. So what I kind of told Sylvester, he was my buddy, I was his onboarding buddy, and he actually is now a senior. And he was thinking about it, and I told him, find something that you enjoy and just go all out on it. I mean, to be a senior, you kind of maybe need to get involved with hiring or be a stable counterpart or work with other teams, or I don't know, be an expert. Obviously you need to be savvy tech-wise, but you don't have to be like a huge expert in something, maybe in a few things. But you don't need to hit all of those. You can just go like 1 or 2 avenues and really go all out, instead of trying to hit all the context. I don't know if that makes sense.
Agreed.
Like, for example,
Mhm.
just to clarify, I'm interested in hiring. Like, I do technical interviews and automation. So that's kind of an Elasticsearch for technical expertise and Kubernetes. So that's kind of what I focused on. You don't have to do all of the things all of the time, right? And like Norden, for example, he's really into optimizing workflows and stuff and improving things here and there for the whole team. The common denominator would be something that is impacting the wider team, right? Something that's beneficial to the team as a whole, not just you or a subgroup.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I think that segues nicely into the next question, actually.
What does a day look like?
Now, the one about things that you've done as a senior that other support engineers might not have seen. I think you're doing your job wrong if other support engineers aren't aware of what you're doing, because that's the whole point. It's to add value to the whole team.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can go there. Yeah, we can. I think that's
I think Ben
it's a natural
summed it up
transition.
instantly.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing to add. If you're not visible and no one has any idea what you have ever done, or you have done something that none of the team members know, you're not a senior. that's just as possible.
Even if that means you're not promoting yourself adequately and what you've done.
I mean, it might be unconscious that people are not aware. We used to have the support bot. I maintained it. At some point, we killed it because it was no longer necessary. But during that time, everyone knew if there was something with the support bot going on, they would just ping me and have it fixed or changed. Then again, I did that before I was a senior. So for me, nothing changed in that perspective. I always took care of it.
I just want to say something really quickly to the other support engineers. You can speak, you can ask, you can interact. It's okay. Don't be afraid.
We don't bite.
Yeah. So make yourself at home and ask questions. Even if they are not in the doc, it's fine. We'll just write them right now. And yeah, please feel free to interact.
I'm quite curious about the second question, because what does the support engineers or senior support engineers day look like? I wouldn't even be able to tell you what another support engineer's day looks like, let alone someone senior.
I totally agree. No day is the same for me, I think. So it's support, so it's all kinds of hell.
It's all kind of fun.
And well, hell is fun.
Most of the time. I think it's sort of, I do a lot of technical interviews. I get this question in every interview. You know, I give them time to ask me questions at the end. And this is just a general question. What does a day from support engineer look like? I can tell you how my day looks like on a normal day. I'm one of 115, 20 support engineers. No day will be the same for any of us.
Which is great, by the way.
Yes, or else I wouldn't have been stuck around for this long. I get really bored if I'm doing the same thing.
If I would hear that in an interview, I would be excited.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Great.
I think that's the, to sidetrack a little bit, that's the general appeal for GitLab. Your day is never the same.
That's what being a manager of one means, right?
Among other things, for sure.
Awesome. Daphne, would you like Ben is answering the next question already. Ben is doing fantastic here in this session. Yeah, would you like to verbalize it?
Yeah, I'll verbalize it. So the next question, if you could only share one piece of advice for someone looking to become SE, what would it be?
Okay, so never forget, it's in our handbook, but never forget that we can't as individuals know everything, and none of us know everything. So, and frankly, probably all of us have the same sense that we know nothing, frankly. Focus on deepening the knowledge in the areas that you're interested in, and then you have an aptitude for, and distinguish yourself in those areas. And that way, the team is more than the sum of its parts, because it can call upon the individuals that have that depth.
Yeah, I would like to add one piece of advice, and that is to have maybe one side project that is somehow useful for the team, like some kind of helper tool or something like that.
It helps, for sure. Vlad, do you have one piece of advice?
Ron and Vlad, you want to add something?
I've been trying to think of a single piece of advice that I can give you. I would say enjoy the process.
Why? Because once you become a senior, it's
horrible. No, it's an amazing experience in everything that you have to do, and it can be horrible at some point. Don't get me wrong. That's why I say enjoy the experience. I've had cases where I thought like my document's awesome, then they come back like we're missing this, and this. It's like okay, It's not awesome. Exactly. That's horrible. But if you enjoy, it's like okay, I'm gonna get those things. If you enjoy doing that, the entire experience is a lot more fun.
It's probably one of the very few contacts that we have in our day-to-day work with old-fashioned bureaucracy, I think. And in those moments, it feels weird, but the rest of our lives probably has a lot more bureaucracy. So maybe it's a good training to not forget what it's like. And the advice that comes back is helpful. So it may feel a little bit weird initially if somebody says, no, you have to restructure your promo document. But at least in my case, I can testify that it definitely helped improve it a lot, even though I initially didn't like the advice to restructure something.
I think the restructure is sort of out the window. I think when Ben and I were working on our promo doc, essentially the layout changed every week. And after shuffling your layout twice, you're done with that. So when they come in for a third time or fourth time or 10th time, your answer is just like, no, I'm not gonna do it. But it helps because it shows you what you're missing.
Cool.
Okay. So I do have a slight twist to the previous question. Is there anything you would do differently on hindsight while you were a support engineer?
Yes. I would do two things different. I would have waited with starting with my promo doc when Tom recommended it. It's not that much of a task to add to it. And in my case, I switched from manager. I went from Tom to another manager to back to Tom to another manager. Every time you switch from a manager, your promo docs push back because they have to reevaluate it. They're different from the other person that looks at it. So in hindsight, I would have done it immediately and I would have finished it with Tom, essentially the first year. My second part, I went into the direction of processes. if you really want to become a senior, don't. Focus on something technical, get good at it, and you'll get promoted quicker. That's it.
So the promo doc is basically a side project on your path to becoming a senior, not the main focus.
Yes. It's a little sidetrack, but I hear a lot of people say, I want to become a senior. You know, and every time I work on a promo doc and I bring in a manager, they say, oh, this is missing, that is missing. They're not saying it to be annoying to you. They say it because they want to help you become a senior. And the problem is not necessarily with your promo doc, it's with your thinking. If you always get something that you have to be correct, your focus is too narrow. You're looking at a small point and not the big picture. And that's a mindset that you have to change when you become a senior, or even before.
That's great. That's great, Ron. True. Do you think that this is my question? I have to write it after, but yeah. But do you think that, like, your in your specific case, your mindset when you join GitLab, like, you had that senior mindset, or someone helped you along the way with some
I've
tips?
always had it, but at my previous company, I worked there for 5 years. I didn't have a manager. No one in my team did. So for me, you know, being a manager of one, I've been doing that for 5 years. So when I joined GitLab, for me, it was really normal to look at a process and say, hey, this can be improved. I'll make an issue for it. It's become a lot more difficult because most of our processes are pretty well aligned. I started like 3.5 years ago. It was a lot different back then. So it was a lot easier to see locations or steps that we can do to improve.
And it's okay if you don't already feel like you have that mentality, because Ronald said he already had it. So that's kind of discouraging, I guess, for some of you who maybe feel that they're not quite there yet. That's perfectly fine to feel like you're not there yet. Work with your manager. That's why you have a manager to guide you. Essentially, I think this also ties in with the next question, which is, why do you want to be a senior support engineer? Really thought that, figure if it's worth it. It's an effort. So do you really want it? Why and why? And then talk to your manager, and they will be able to kind of guide you.
Small correctification. You mentioned I already had it, as it. I didn't have it when I started at my previous company 5 years ago.
Okay, so
it's something I developed there.
Right, you build up to it.
So when I joined GitLab, for me, it was really normal to be a manager of one, because I've been doing that for the last 5 years.
Okay, I hate to say this, but we only have 1 minute or a few seconds left.
I don't mind extending.
Okay, yeah. That's what I was about to say. If everyone is okay with it, can we
I'm okay.
extend? Okay. Okay, so let's go for it. Yeah. So
why did you decide to become support engineer? I think Vlad mentioned this.
And also, just wanted to mention this as well. It's perfectly fine to be a support engineer, not a senior. And I've kind of read about this. It didn't occur to me because of my way of thinking that you always need to be moving forward. But it's perfectly fine to be a support engineer. You don't need to go to senior. It's not a shame in standing still. Maybe some people just enjoy being a support engineer. And there's responsibilities that come with being a senior, right? So I mean, the scope broadens a little bit. So you need to account for that, to take that into consideration.
No worries. Yeah, you actually gave me a moment to think about it. There is actually a video, and I can't remember where I saw it, but it's somewhere in our handbook where this person gives an interview or a presentation. He starts as a developer. He became senior developer. He became manager. And then he's like, I hate being a manager. And then he went back to senior developer, back to normal developer, because he didn't want to be senior either.
Yeah, that's a really cool one. I remember seeing that as well. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
it's a very bold case. Cool, thanks, man. It's a very bold, statement to make. It's like, I don't enjoy this, so I want to be something else. But it's not rare. I mean, we have quite a few people. If you talk with them in their previous team, they were managing other people. They didn't enjoy that, so they want to be something else. With senior, if you don't enjoy helping others, and spending a lot of time helping someone debug a problem, don't become a senior. If you want to do it for the money, I would just ask for a raise. It might sound very silly, but that's a better approach than saying, hey, I'm going to become a senior and then essentially hate my job.
Mm.
Katrin, you disagree?
No, I agree with that.
Well, Katrin loves helping others, so she's good at it.
Oh, for sure.
Thank you, I do.
She's good at it.
He's awesome. No, but it's I hear a lot of people say like, oh, I'm still not a senior. Do you want one? Become one. Yeah, if it's true, you'll make it happen.
Cool. We have a lot of people writing on the next question. Staff support engineer. Okay, this one. Okay, this will be a nice one. Ben is the first one. Please verbalize your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so my understanding is that staff is less of a sure thing. I think there's some kind of ratio with senior managers. It's kind of a or like at director level potentially, where there's a one-to-one relationship, something like that. So it's not quite the same, I think, as senior, where if there is a limit, I'm not aware of it being there. I'm not sure the process is well defined. To the best of my knowledge, we've only ever had 2 staff support engineers. Obviously, Will's the current sole example. So I suspect the process of getting there isn't well defined in the same way as for the longest time getting to senior was a moving target. Yeah.
Nice description. Yes.
And the other thing is, I'm not sure I want to be staff. I mean, I sit there kind of looking at how Will is used, basically, as a kind of hired gun. So if, some big customers on fire, it's like, Will, can you jump on this? Can you take this call? It doesn't feel like a model for being able to focus on anything. Still does a fantastic job, but nonetheless. And also, I kind of did that in my last role when I went for principal. It was the only place I had to go, really. So I went there but it meant letting go of a lot of the technical stuff I enjoyed doing and so on. So yeah, I'm not ready to think about stuff yet.
Was discussing this with Tom, my manager, Tom Atkins, and my conclusion, at least, was that it's a higher jump from senior to staff than it is from intermediary to senior. And yeah, like Ben said, I'm still not 100% sure that I definitely need to go to staff. So going back to my earlier point, you don't necessarily have to go from intermediary to senior or from senior to staff, as long as you're finding your motivation and you're happy.
Katrin, you unmuted.
Yeah, I want to convey one advice that was given to me by a manager even before I became a senior, and that was to simply start collecting or continue collecting the examples of your work and the examples that you would present to your case to becoming a staff engineer in a staff promo doc. I mean, it seems like a good habit, even if the other considerations might outweigh your decision. But I found this advice really interesting, so I wanted to forward it. Yeah, as a habit mostly, maybe not as a the thing that tips the decision a lot, but it seems sensible.
Yeah, solid advice.
My answer to the question is no. It's not that I don't want to grow. It's I don't want to be staff. I want to be a manager. And that's actually an option. And I noticed it wasn't mentioned here, but if you're a senior, you got two choices. You either focus on being staff, which means you're excellent at a lot of things, or you become a manager. And I'm not saying manager is not excellent at a lot of things.
I was going to say.
I figured that much. But it's a very different focus. And to iterate on Katrin's point, I had a chat with a few managers, and one thing they mentioned, which is not documented, you have to be in your performance review, you have to be exceeding before they even consider you become a senior. So if you're exceeding in support engineer, they say, okay, you know, it's time to look at your promo doc. It can be completely wrapped up already, but before that, they won't look at it. Same with if you're going to staff or manager, you have to be exceeding as a senior. That's something we don't document, but
confirmed.
It's kind of confirmed, yeah.
True. Someone wrote, what is on top of mind to learn, or what are you learning these days? Yeah, so
Ooh,
Ron, you have your microphone.
Yeah, where to start?
I don't think we stop. Even as a senior, and I'm focused on being a manager, I'm still doing geo. I'm learning geo. I've learned S-trace. So low level, technical stuff is still something I learn. I've done the management training, which is a 2-week organized training session from GitLab, which I had to actually opt in for in order to be a part of it. That's one that I finished in January. Actually, next training. I've got the name of this, critical conversations, which is focused on managers or new managers that started or aspiring managers as myself. And it's again an opt-in where you get 2 weeks of intense training, courses that you have to follow in order to get through it. But you never stop learning. If you do, you're essentially, going backwards.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the challenge as a senior support engineer is finding the time and, having the contiguous amount of time to actually focus on something, because you get half an hour here, half an hour there, but you never have the consistency, right? And I did the CKA thing, and I had like 2 false starts before I actually, the third time, committed to it and eventually got all the way to the end and took the certification. But it's hard to find the time. I think that's the struggle, not what you're learning. There's so many things to learn. Like Ronald said, I would love to have the time to learn geo. I was going to, but then I decided not to because I'm focusing on AWS and Ansible and some other things. So yeah, always try to learn new things. I think that's part of the growing mentality, and yeah. part of being a support engineer at GitLab. Not a senior, but.
Ben, do you have something to add here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey from my perspective. You know, every time I get a ticket where I need to do some Rails console stuff, I build upon what I did before and surprise myself that I managed to fix whatever the customer's problem was. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, just nothing in particular. Just I guess that's to build upon what Vlad said. Having been here 2 years, if you think that, oh, it's going to get a bit quieter, you know, around Christmas or next month or, you know, after then or before that, it won't. It's just always going to be like that. So if there's things like CKA you want to do, you're going to have to figure out how to make the time to do it.
But not much more, really. I'm posting it as it comes my way.
Great. Katrin, anything? I know that you're learning a lot of Ruby, so.
Yeah, I try to focus a bit on programming, but mostly because I didn't have a background in that a lot. So I'm at the same time not really sure if it's something the team needs a lot, I have to be honest. But yeah, the difficult part is finding time to do it, like outside of emergencies and stuff like that. And one of the advice that I got was to maybe take a full day each week, trying to do that currently. But yeah, finding the time is the toughest part of all this learning.
Cool. Yeah. So thanks for that. The other question, well, is about sharing the promo doc, like every senior sharing the promo doc there. So thank you for doing that. It will be used as a reference for us. And yeah, I think we answered all the questions. We are 13 minutes. We abused our time like for 13 minutes, but that's okay. Everyone agreed. So thank you. Thank you once again for all the support, senior support engineers that joined and the support engineers that joined. I didn't hear everyone's voice today, which is a shame, but maybe next time. And yeah, see you around.
Sorry, somebody took the training. What is it? The emotional safety, or what's it called? I think I was trying to make a joke. Did you do the training about
psychological safety?
Yeah, psychological safety, exactly. Because that kind of sounds like you did, and trying to get people to share their opinions and be inclusive and stuff, and creating an environment where everybody gets to speak up, which is great. I just it's fresh in my mind and just wanted to point that out.
Cool.
If not, you should
not do it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I was just trying to be polite. Honestly,
okay.
I was just trying to be polite. Yeah, cool. Because I like to hear everyone's perspective. We always learn from other people's perspective. So yeah, that's what I wanted to. That's why I wanted to everyone to chime in. But yeah, right. Thanks everyone. And yeah, this was really productive. Daphne, do you want to say something?
Well, yeah, I think this is my first time in such a, intimate setting and carrying out everything that's shared today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you for organizing this.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So thank you everyone, and have a great rest of your week.
You too. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye guys.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Cool.